In February of 1980, in a small hockey rink in Lake Placid, New York, the world witnessed what we now call a miracle. A group of college kids from Minnesota and Boston took down the greatest hockey machine ever assembled, the Soviet Red Army team. We like the word miracle because it suggests luck. It suggests that if the stars align just right, the underdog can win through some mystical intervention or sudden burst of spirit. But as an attorney and executive, I've learned that miracles in high-stakes environments are rarely about luck. They're about engineering. They're about a specific, often painful set of philosophies that turn a group of individuals into an unstoppable system. If you look at that 1980 scoreboard, you see a 4-3 win. But if you look at the architecture behind that scoreboard, you see a masterclass in organizational design. Today, we are putting the 1980 Miracle on Ice on the stand. Not to talk about hockey, but to talk about how you build a team that can achieve the impossible in 2026. After this, I'll be making the case for the right fit, why resumes don't win gold medals. Welcome back to The Case For. I'm your host, Matt Campobasso. This episode didn't start in a history book or a sports documentary or in my journal. It actually started in my weekly one-on-one with my CEO. My CEO is someone who I have an immense amount of respect for, not just for the obvious traits you'd expect at his level, strategic vision, or ability to scale a business, but rather because he has incredible depth and range. He is a true student of the world and human nature. He poses an incredibly high EQ, which I find allows him to navigate the complexities of our industry with a sense of calm and clarity that is frankly very rare. Every single one of our weekly one-on-one sessions ends with me walking away having learned something new. It's never a checklist of tasks, it's a masterclass in how to think. In our last session, the subject of Herb Brooks came up. My CEO was describing the way that the 1980 U.S. men's hockey team was built, not just who was on it, but why they were there. He spoke about it with such nuance and passion that it sent me down a rabbit hole of research over the last few days. I realized that what Herb Brooks did in 1980 is the exact same thing most effective modern leaders are trying to do today. Herb Brooks was not just a coach. He was a pioneer of the system over star architecture. So today, I'm making the case that if you want to build a team for sustainable greatness, you need to stop looking for the best people and start looking for the Brooks people. You need to realize that in the long run, resumes don't win gold medals. So let me open here. Herb Brooks was a specialist who realized specialization was not enough to beat a global monopoly in the Soviet men's hockey team in the 1980 Olympics. He knew he couldn't outskill the Soviets at their own game. He couldn't out-talent them in a vacuum. So he changed the game itself. Most leaders try to win by collecting the most impressive resumes. They look for all-stars with the most pedigree, thinking that a collection of high performers automatically equals a high-performing team. But Brooks proved that theory wrong. He proved that a team is not an addition of individuals, but rather multiplication of compatible parts. High performance is a consequence of fit, preparation, and shared identity. So today, I'm arguing that the Brooks model is the ultimate blueprint for any high-stakes team, whether you're chasing a gold medal or a billion-dollar transaction. Let's take a look at the evidence, which I'm going to mark Exhibits A through D. Exhibit A is about the right player versus the best player. Brooks famously told his scouts, "I'm not looking for the best players, I'm looking for the right ones." This sounds like a simple quote, but it is a radical departure from traditional hiring. In professional life, we often fall in love with the all-star candidate, the one with the perfect pedigree and the glowing LinkedIn profile. We see the big name and think they will solve every problem that we have. But Brooks intentionally cut some of the most talented players in the country because they did not fit his hybrid system. He wasn't looking for a bunch of I players. He was looking for pieces that fit a specific puzzle. Think about your own organization. Have you ever hired a superstar who ended up poisoning the culture? Someone who was brilliant but wouldn't adapt, wouldn't share credit, or wouldn't buy into the collective strategy? That person is a best player, but definitely not the right player. Brooks would have cut that person in a heartbeat. He understood that a team of superstars who can't work together will always lose to a team of the right players who are perfectly in sync. Exhibit B, the hybrid system. Before 1980, there were two ways to play hockey: the physical linear North American style or the creative, fluid European style. But Brooks refused to choose. He integrated both. He forced his American kids to play with the creativity of the Russians and the grit of the NHL. He took the best of both worlds to create something entirely new, a system the Soviets had never seen and could not predict. Sustainable greatness requires the ability to integrate diverse methodologies into a single cohesive system. In the wicked environment of modern business, if you only play one way, you are easy to scout. If you have range, you're dangerous. Don't just follow the industry standard. Build a hybrid that makes you a complex problem for your competition to solve. Exhibit C, the legs feed the wolf. Brooks' most famous mantra was about conditioning. He knew that when people get tired, they get sloppy, and they lose their ability to spot critical issues. In my world, that's where the issue spotting fails, where the contract mistake happens, or where an executive makes a bad call under pressure for the wrong reasons. By making his team the fittest in the world, skating them until they literally collapsed on the ice, he ensured that they were the smartest team in the final 10 minutes of the game. In business, conditioning isn't about sprints, it's about operational discipline. It's about having the mental stamina to stay sharp when others are fading. Operational discipline is a mental weapon. If your team has that stamina, emotionally and physically, to stay sharp during the final crunch of high-stakes projects, you'll win the outcome every time. And Exhibit D, the front of the jersey. Brooks was notoriously distant, intentionally acting as a common enemy to force his players to bond with each other. He broke down regional silos, Minnesota versus Boston, to create a single identity. He told them the name on the front of the jersey is a hell of a lot more important than the one on the back. Success is a collective outcome where individual ego is sacrificed for the system. In your organization, if the name on the back is getting more attention than the mission on the front, your system's failing. True greatness comes when every member of the team values the collective outcome over personal accolades. You don't build a miracle on the back of personal brands, you build it on the back of a shared mission. With that, I want to move Exhibits A through D into evidence and take on the most obvious objection to my case. You may be thinking, Matt, this sounds good in a sports movie, but we're talking about people's careers in 2026. Brooks was harsh, he was distant, he made himself a common enemy. 2026, we value empathy, high EQ, and psychological safety. You can't lead like a 1980s drill sergeant anymore and expect to keep top-tier talent. This model is antiquated. It's a relic of a command and control era that modern professionals have moved past. If you try to treat your team like Brooks treated those kids, you're going to have 100% turnover in a week. In other words, aren't you advocating for a toxic environment in the name of winning? People want to be seen as individuals, not just parts in your machine. And in taking this approach, you're ignoring the human element that makes modern teams thrive. So, this is a very heavy objection, and I want to address it with the respect it deserves. If you've listened to prior episodes, I'll have anywhere from 3 to 4 objections. Today, I just want to focus on this one because it really attacks the heart of the case I'm trying to build. So if you walk into a modern law office or a technology company and start acting like Herb Brooks in the movie Miracle, yes, absolutely, you are going to have a disaster on your hands. But we have to distinguish between the method and the principles. Brooks wasn't being a tyrant for the sake of power, he was being accountable. This brings me back to my weekly one-on-one with my CEO. As I've said, he has an incredibly high EQ. He's very kind. He's one of the most empathetic people I've ever known, especially at his level. But he also is a student of human nature who understands that true empathy isn't about letting standards slide. True empathy is respecting your team enough to hold them to a standard of excellence they didn't know they could reach. It's about believing in their potential more than they do. Brooks gave his team a standard that was higher than their own effort. Psychological safety doesn't mean a lack of challenge. It means having a team that trusts each other enough to meet the hardest challenges head on. If you love your team, you will not let them be mediocre. Accountability, in my experience, and especially in the professional world, is the highest form of respect. It shows that you value the individual's contribution enough to demand it at its best. The Brooks model isn't about shouting. It isn't about skating people until they pass out. It's about the clarity of expectations and the unwavering commitment to the group over the self. It's about creating an environment where the right fit means someone who finds safety in high standards, not someone who wants to hide in the status quo. That is just as relevant, if not more so, in 2026 than it was in 1980. With that, I'm going to overrule this objection. Now moving to closing argument. We spend so much energy looking for the miracle that we miss the engineering required to build it. We want the glory of the podium without skating until we collapse. We want the win, but we aren't willing to cut the all-star who doesn't fit the system. We want greatness, but we often settle for the comfort of the status quo. Sustainable greatness, the kind that outlasts a single season, is built on the Brooks model. It's built on finding the right fit, maintaining operational discipline, and valuing the system over the individual. My weekly sessions with my CEO are a constant reminder that the best leaders are students of human nature who build systems to serve people, not egos. If you want to win, stop looking for the best player. Build the right team. Build a system that can sustain the weight of a gold medal. Don't wait for a miracle, engineer one. Because when the final buzzer sounds, it will not be the resumes that matter. It will be the team that was built to stay standing when everyone else falls down. Before we adjourn, let's move this out of the courtroom and into the real world. Here are 3 ways that you can apply the Brooks model tomorrow. Number 1, the right fit audit. Next time you're hiring or even assigning a high-stakes task, don't just look at the resume or someone's past accolades. Ask yourself, what specific gap in our team system does this person fill? Don't hire a star who plays their own game. Hire a piece that makes the other 4 players on the ice twice as effective. Look for the multiplier effect, not just the individual addition. Number 2, the legs check. Identify where your team is fatigued, emotionally, operationally, or creatively. Is it a messy process that drains their energy? Is it a lack of clarity that creates friction? Fix the conditioning of your processes so that your team has the mental reserves to stay sharp when the third period hits and the pressure is at its peak. Stamina in business is about process health. And number 3, the front of the jersey moment. In your next meeting, before you discuss a single individual task, a single spreadsheet, or a deadline, explicitly set out that shared goal. Remind everyone that the outcome of the team is the only metric that matters. Sacrifice the individual ego for the mission on the front of the jersey. Make it clear that we win or we lose as a single system. That's my case for today. If this episode resonated with you, please share it with your team or someone else who needs to hear it. Post your own thoughts on leadership and the Brooks model on social media using the hashtag #TheCase4. I want to see the pivots that you're making in your own organizations. And finally, please reach out. I want to hear your feedback on the show, your thoughts on these cases, and ideas for future episodes. Thanks again for listening, and remember, whatever your case is, don't be afraid to build it and carry it out into the real world.